that, Kelly. For reaction, let's bring in Ashley Bell, Senior Strategist and National Director of African American Political Engagement for the Republican National Committee. Ashley, it's great to have you with us this morning, sir. I want to start with your reaction with those new tweets from President-elect Trump. He said, quote, Congressman John Lewis should spend more time on fixing and helping his district, which is in horrible shape and falling apart, not to mention crime-infested. My question to you, sir, this morning as we go into the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, Congressman John Lewis, one of the most widely revered, respected civil rights activists in this country's history. Did President-elect Trump cross a line here with that tweet this morning?
Well, John Lewis is an icon, someone I think personally for his service to this country. What he did in the civil rights movement allowed many people like myself to be able to vote, and honestly to be able to vote in historic numbers for Donald Trump. Donald Trump received a historic amount of African-American support, 13% from African-American men like myself and John Lewis. That would not have been possible without the sacrifices that John Lewis has given to this country. So with much respect, we give John Lewis for his time and service to this country and continues to give.
Yeah, but do you agree with Donald Trump? Did he cross a line with what he said today against John Lewis, the man that you just had so much respect for?
Well, I think that Donald Trump was talking about crime in Atlanta. I'm from Atlanta. I understand the challenges there. That's fair game to talk about the state of affairs anywhere in this country. It wasn't personal to John Lewis. Let's look at the facts. Let's look at Atlanta. Atlanta's a great city. I think that they've done a great job of increasing police, but there's still challenges there. There's no one who would tell you that there's still not challenges with crime, and I think that's a fair assessment.
Okay, well, let me ask you about, this is a man, again, as you just said, you have a tremendous amount of respect for John Lewis, that is. What is your reaction when you hear somebody like that, of his stature, somebody you respect, say that President-elect Donald Trump is not legitimate?
Look, you know, I spent a lot of time since the election talking to many Democrats who are still hurting about this election, who are still upset and take it personal. I understand that, but I'm also inspired by the fact that they're still willing to work with this president to move forward. So it's going to be some time. Feelings are still hurt. We understand that, but I think going forward, I think there's a sense of hope still that we need change, and I think that change can't happen without us all working together. But I think if you listen to Representative Lewis's comments, he's still open to working with this administration, and you hear that a lot with many different civil rights groups in the African American community. They're open, they're optimistic, and I think they're still willing to sit down at the table, and we're thankful for that.
Okay, you talk about some of those in the opposition that are thankful and willing to talk to you guys, participate in trying to advance your agenda, but we also know that there are many protests that are planned to take place around President-elect Trump's inauguration. In fact, one march the day after he takes office is expecting to draw as many as 200,000 participants, according to them. How closely are you guys paying attention to their messages to make sure that you reach out to those folks that have concerns, that have fears, and say, don't be afraid, we're going to work with you?
We're working overtime and in overdrive. If you look at the march that's happening that I think Al Sharpton is putting together, if you look at every organization that's listed to be a part of that march, that civil rights group, we've met with those leaders at least 2 to 3 times since the election. They're not going to agree with us on everything, but they do still want a seat at the table. We respect that. They deserve a seat at the table. And we had hours and hours of conversation about how we go forward together. They still believe that there's progress that can be made if we all agree that, you know, we may disagree on the means, but the end is the same. We want a safe country. We want people to have affordable health care. We don't want to roll back civil rights gains. If we all agree with that, let's figure out how we get that done. And every one of those groups has reached out to this president. Every one of those groups has sat down with our leadership, and we're going to continue to sit down and meet with them going forward. So protesting is their right. We're glad that they're highlighting these issues, but we hope they also take the time to come and sit down at the table, and let's come together and reason together to find a way forward.
Let me switch gears a little bit and talk to you about some confirmation hearings, in particular to the opposition to Senator Jeff Sessions, President-elect Trump's pick for Attorney General. And just yesterday, Senator Al Franken had this to say on our air. Take a listen.
I'm going to vote against Senator Sessions. I just don't feel comfortable that he would protect all Americans' rights.
So, you know, you heard him there say he doesn't feel comfortable that he's going to protect all Americans' rights. So give us your point as to why you think Senator Jeff Sessions, or even if you don't, but do you think Senator Jeff Sessions can protect the rights of all Americans, including African Americans and minorities?
You know, I think he can, and I respect the Senate's ability to question Senator Sessions. They've done that, but far too often there's these vague things like, I don't feel comfortable, I don't know if he will. No one's really gotten specific about what these concerns are in any relevant fashion. But I'll say this, Senator Sessions is definitely someone who's qualified for the job. He's someone that I think the president trusts, and I think that you'll see him build out a Justice Department that will have wide and varied opinions and a diverse staff that I think will be in a position to make sure that everyone's rights are protected. So I asked folks in the reverse, what exactly is the problem? What exactly are you pointing to that says that Senator Sessions can't do this job? And I'll say this, folks will go back to the 80s and they'll point to things that happened then, but look at his track record recently. Look at the fact the civil rights cases he's been involved with, his stewardship in Alabama.
Right.
Look at his last elections in Alabama. Did you see anyone in Alabama bringing up these comments during the election when he was reelected several times?
All right, Ashley, but we're going to have to leave it at that. But thank you very much for joining us from Atlanta this morning.
Always a pleasure, Eamon.
Always a pleasure. Take care.